Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Copeland Coins live stream. This is a pre-recorded episode all about how. What was the topic again? I never do that, but I know
You
we're
never
talking
do it. Okay, bro.
all
We're,
about.
we're talking about performance in the middle of summer,
Yes, that was it. Yes, yes, yes. We are in the middle of summer right now, and you can't hardly tell by my jacket. Um,
or that nice AC here in Houston, Texas, at the Copeland Coins warehouse.
yes, the AC does help, but when you're not in the AC or you have other considerations, that is what this live stream is all about, right?
Because it changes your magic, and some people don't think about it until they get to the gig or they go to the performance, and then all of a sudden the season has affected them since the last time they practiced or really performed. Maybe it's an old trick, bringing it back. It changes, and it changes how you perform. It really does.
It's very, very important
Let's
consideration.
explain for the skeptics, because some people still don't get this. They're thinking like, "What are you talking about?"
No, 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 no. There's multiple ways that the elements and just the environment changes what you can and cannot do and how impactful your magic is. And so we want to give you some things to think about, some ways to approach that so that you can head that off at the start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start off then. From the spring into the summer, the weather gets violent. It does. It tries to kill us every year. It's just the truth.
It's insane. There's all
I
sorts
talk
of
about like
different.
spring is like birth, and birth is painful, and that's when adolescents and toddlers. A 2-year-old is the most angry creature on the planet, and it'll let you know it. And that's what summer is coming into maturity, and it's violent. And then just think about angry teenager at their parents. That's summer, like hot, cold, everything in between. It's always bouncing around.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah. And in these kind of situations, when you're doing these, spring and summer kind of things, whether you're performing at a restaurant or you have a private event or a public thing, sometimes there's opportunities to perform both in and outdoors, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
And so that changes it, because when you're outdoors, then you're in the elements, and that's the gigs you get hired for, or that's where the people are. People want to be out when it's cozy, or not, or you're sweating, but people want to be outside in the summer, right? And so you find yourself doing magic in the backyard, at the party, at the restaurant. The outdoor seating is opened up, that kind of stuff. So you got to be mindful of that the of how it goes. So Caleb, you want me to start, or you got some things to talk about from your restaurant days? Or
yeah, just this idea of being aware of like weather
yeah,
is just something to consider. It could, especially here in North Carolina, it's like it's really, really hot for like the majority of the day, and then it just torrential downpours as a result, like in the evening times, and
hmm,
especially in the summer. And so it's like considering that, okay, how is that going to change? Uh, I mean, when we're talking specifically props, like the humidity is going to change your cards, for
it
example,
does.
you
Yeah,
know. But even like thinking about how the rain is going to affect my coin magic, like can things get wet? What's going to happen with people moving inside, outside? How is it? All these kind of different things to think about, right?
yeah. The cards that you bring out to a summer gig might be different. I remember when we were younger, hanging out around here, and I was so nervous about like just destroying a deck of cards. And here in Houston, Danny Garcia is like, dude, it's like $5. Just let it go. Because I knew as soon as I opened that deck of cards, it would be dead. Like, it was so humid. We were out jamming outside. And so I was like, fine, whatever. It's like, yeah, it's a big deal. Why am I so concerned about this? Like, so you don't bring out your super duper designer decks, because they will swell up, they'll get thicker, and the deck will like grow. That's another trick throughout the day of a performance on a humid day. And so you should be mindful of what you bring. If it's raining, or that's going to be an effect. What is your wardrobe? Can it handle the rain? Can you
Quick
can you be there? Go ahead.
Quick
Mhm.
pro tip on the cards too. You can get that cost down if you order them from. I get them from like BJ's here in North Carolina, like a big. It's kind of like Sam's Club, like a big warehouse
Oh
supply
yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah.
where you buy things in bulk. You can buy the decks to where the price goes down to like $1.60 per deck.
Oh, are they? Wow, I haven't checked 2022 prices here recently, but I know that Costco used to could get them for about that
Costco's another
price.
one.
Very
Yeah,
similar.
and then that
I
way I
have
go in
I've
knowing that I'm
stacked.
just going to destroy a deck. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I do new deck every gig, and a lot of times for a restaurant gig, because and that at the table's dirty, depending on your restaurant. I used to love working hibachi grills, and I would get one use of a deck per night because you're working over that grill. The hibachi grill, by the way, if you don't have a restaurant gig, is a great place to start because people go out to be entertained. That is the reason you go eat hibachi. Very seldom is the food that great. Usually it's overcooked. It's like, well, the chef has entertained people. Your food is still sitting there overcooking. They want to be entertained. So it's a great place because there's a stage to perform. But when you perform tricks over the stage, that heat will warp your cards over the night.
It's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, and they
You will
always
sweat.
say, yeah, people don't go to a restaurant just to eat. Otherwise, they would eat at home, right? They go for an
Yeah,
experience, right?
yeah, absolutely,
So there's a whole nother live stream we could talk about restaurant work, but it's
absolutely.
something to consider. The other element I wanted to consider with weather and stuff is wind.
Wind, yeah.
Right? Being outdoors, like, not only for, like, how people can hear you and stuff, but, like, your props and stuff. You don't wanna be, showing your coin at the extreme fingertips like we've talked about, and then all of a sudden it just blows away, right?
Yeah,
Like that it might look good for, like, half the people, but,
yeah.
you gotta consider things like that.
You gotta be aware of your lighting, stuff like that. Very, very few invisible thread trailers have been filmed in the middle of the day in the summer.
Yeah,
Windy days with full sunlight, yeah.
yeah.
Hasn't
I don't
hasn't worked so well.
Igal Masika does have some interesting stuff with some of these things. I don't know if you just a side note, have you seen that new thing that he has where, like, he plucks a leaf off of a tree, and then he blows the leaf and it flies back up onto the tree and
I
reattaches?
did see that, yeah.
I don't know if they must not have done that in the outdoor wind or something. He must have figured something out, like, maybe a
I don't
place in
know.
a valley or something where I don't know, but
They had the camera angle just right because I maybe that's pretty gutsy, but, maybe he's got something else going that we don't know about yet, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
but there's ways just to think. We just want you guys thinking about these different elements and how you're gonna approach it when the time comes,
Yeah,
that's a
because you need to know when you're going out the door, like, "Oh, let me grab my normal magic coat that I wear all winter long," and you get out there, you're like, "Oh, I'm dying," and everybody's looking at the magician like, "Why is he wearing a coat? What's he got up his sleeves?"
that's okay, that's another one we wanna jump to right now is wardrobe, because
Absolutely.
I saw a thread actually on Facebook, yesterday where magicians were talking, "Do you wear a vest?" You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good option for me. I do, in these summer type gigs, a vest with a button-down shirt and the sleeves rolled up because
Does
that
your
way you're
vest, like, hold things enough? Like, I wear vests. I used to perform vests all the time just for the look, but the little pockets are, like, so tiny. You get,
yeah.
like, half a card in the pocket.
And this is my prediction, and here's my other prediction.
You're, like, working on the vest. It's just, like, it doesn't.
No, now they do make vests that are, you can go to a tailor, or maybe not a tailor, a seamstress, and have her put in different pockets just like you would like a Topic kinda thing or
Yeah, of
something.
course, yeah.
And they do make vests, I think, on certain, magic websites and things that, like, have certain things in them. But I've always just used a regular vest, but it's just nice because you do have a couple extra pockets,
Yeah.
and it keeps you cool, but also still looking professional if that's what
Y
you're going for.
Yeah, you gotta step above the audience, yeah. No, there's no doubt, like, on my stage, I love to dress up, like, when I'm on stage, so I wear vests, wear multi-layers and stuff like that, but
Oh, yeah. No, I hear
I
you.
like wearing sleeves. I've tried, like, the summer coats, like Eddie Bauer and a couple of them, like, where they had these thinner, like, jackets, like, you're
Linen.
supposed to be able to wear outside. Just even even if, like, you got sweat running down your arms, like, you try to sleeve something, it's like, "Chick," it just sticks up there.
Ooh. You got, like, octopalm, like, all the way
Yeah,
down to your elbow.
it's like, why did I try this? Spent hundreds of dollars on these outdoor blazers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you live in Canada for your summers, I don't know. They just don't work down here
See,
in
this is the
Texas.
re're saving you hundreds of dollars by
Just
watching
save
this
you,
live
yeah.
stream, guys, like, this is the real deal.
Well,
But
after you spend that, like, so it's in my closet. I can't bring myself to give it away. Maybe some year I'll move to Colorado or something. I don't know.
well, the other thing, about that is, like you mentioned, sleeving and sleeves, you gotta consider stuff like that. You might have the Blackbird, right? Is something you wanna use in
Yeah,
certain situations. You might have to make certain decisions, but it doesn't mean you have to lose something because, like in my performance, for example, when I'm doing these gigs I talked about with rolled up sleeves,
yeah,
many times people point that out. They go, "Oh, and his sleeves are even rolled up," and it's
yeah,
like a benefit, or I'll point it out. And by the way, look, you can see I don't even have
yeah.
sleeves, you know.
Absolutely spin
And
it.
when I'm wearing sleeves, I just don't mention it. You know what I mean? Like, You just
Yeah,
adapt.
absolutely. The good thing about Blackbird actually, because it's Velcro, you can use it under a vest like a traditional coin holdout. I know that
That's
there's been some
true.
marketing things that have come out, and like good old Blackbird's been doing that for close to a decade now. So
That's
yeah,
true.
because it's Velcro, you can iron on Velcro and put it anywhere under a coat or a vest or behind your tie. As Ronnie Mead, if you know Ronnie, he did that. He taught me about that.
He puts the
So
Blackbird behind his tie?
that's what he said. It's a good idea. So like you just like adjust your tie and just tick, you get a coin out.
What? I've never heard of that one. That's great.
Yeah. So,
Wow. Man,
but
that's
yeah,
a pro
the
tip right
Velcro
there.
lets it stick anywhere, so it's pretty versatile. You know, if you need something that is very affordable for the price of two, plus all the teaching videos and tips and tricks,
Mhm.
and so
No,
yeah,
it's a great thing to have for sure, and then obviously there's ways to use it even in the summer elements, so that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, okay, so the next thing we wanted to talk about was volume and noise.
Ooh, this is we got jamming before we got on the video here. We came up with some interesting thoughts because around the summertime the parties get bigger. Lots of times the parties move outdoors. Maybe the parties can get more crammed indoors, and so volume and noise goes up, which then means that you have to find a way to communicate
Mhm,
over that.
and that can be
So
good and bad, right?
yeah,
You just have to perspective once again, good because sometimes there's certain tricks that you need to hide noise elements for, right?
yeah,
Um, or difficult because you have to think, okay, I can't do my trick with the click pass because they won't hear the click pass, right?
no,
Or the rattle, the rattle, gimmick because they won't hear that, things like that. I remember there's been times when Eric Jones has a beautiful routine. Um, what's it called?
audio,
What was it?
audio,
Audio.
audio.
Yes, yes, yes. Love that routine, and we're gonna be hopefully featuring some Eric Jones stuff coming up. That's a little
Mm,
sneak peek for everybody. But that's a beautiful routine that relies on sound, right? And it's
yeah,
like that's maybe something you'd have to hold off until
wouldn't
you
be the
get
right trick for the
quieter.
club.
Yes.
Just
Quieter,
would.
yeah, not for the club. So, just these
Yeah.
are just considerations, right?
Just like try to think about that because you might have to for certain routines either scratch them or change the illusion, right? The illusion might come more from dramatically making the communicating with the body language, right?
Mm,
Versus the sound or something like that. So like that click pass might be as soon as you do it, then you've got to remind visually, get these kind of ideas across because you have to be ready, like not just assume that your audience is able to follow along because the sound changes things when you get in a loud environment. Now, I'll share another story from when I used to perform at a festival. We lived in Middle Missouri and they had the cicadas. I was in North Carolina for several years of my life, but do y'all have cicadas, Caleb?
yeah, I think yeah, mhm.
Okay. So there's like a 7-year and a 9-year cicada, this bug that like breeds and then it goes underground for like 7 years. It's crazy. Underground 7 years, then hatches, and all of them come out in swarms. And like, I don't know the math on it. I think there was a 7 and a 9 year, whatever. This was the year both of them hatched at the same time. So I was like bugs everywhere.
When you
And
started your magic career.
yeah, it was pretty. These little cicadas are kind of pretty little interesting bugs. I don't know, but they're just everywhere. And they covered everything. And they were just so loud because they would just sing all day long. And I got hired to do this festival every summer, and I'm performing. And they said, "Here's your close-up area, Jeff." And they showed me on the map. I'm like, "Okay, it's under the big tree. There's nice shade. That'd be good." No, the big oak tree was like the swarm hive mother lode of cicadas. And so there's like a bazillion bugs up above me, and they're all like doing their cicada thing at the same time. And like people are like inches away from me, and you can't hear me. Like everybody's just used to this noise. It's been going on for a month now. Like we're like, oh, we're just hanging out. But it's like when you stop and think about it, it's like mind numbing. Like it was so loud. And everybody's trying to beat the heat. So they're under the tree, under the trees in the canopy there with this big tree where I'm supposed to perform. And I'm like, nobody can hear me. We couldn't hear anything. I mean, just hear bugs.
That's insane. What did you do?
Well, I did things like SpongeBob's. I did tactile things. I move away from the sound illusions. I move away from the audible stuff where you can clearly communicate. You can see very visual stuff. The visual put in the hands. With the coins and stuff like that. Get it up here. It's always that kind of thing. Get it in the hands. That kind of stuff. And again, it's almost a decade ago now that happened. So I can't tell you the exact tricks I did, but I do know I had to adapt with my body language, touch, communicate by people touching on the shoulders, holding hands, that kind of stuff, because the audio was not there.
It's interesting, yeah, because there's a lot of you talk a lot about body language and how that is demonstrated in coin magic, right? And
Yeah.
using it in conjunction with a script. But in this case, if you have to lose the script because they can't hear you, like you still have those elements of miming technique and putting focus where it needs to be and miming, things like that that people need to know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say I amplified that, right? To cut through the noise, right? So step it up even more and watch the audience and see what they're doing. Cause I mean, you've got to read their facial expressions. You can't hear their reactions. They're not able to get that back. And coaching them that it's okay to be accepted. And so all I'm saying is if you find yourself in this situation in a club environment or loud restaurant or a house party that the music is just turned up way too loud, still make that strong eye contact, still communicate with the people, still figure out how to amplify those other means of communication, and that can happen. So we talked about it briefly beforehand. I was sharing with the Simon Cornell from Australia. This is a fantastic thing that he performs an effect. He is fluent. I believe it's Mandarin. I don't know my Chinese very well, but he's fluent in Chinese, and I think it's Mandarin. And it comes as a surprise because he's a typical white male Australian guy, like me, white male Texan here, and you wouldn't expect him to speak this language so fluently. But he sets up a trick that he's going to perform. He says, "I'm going to perform this trick for you in Chinese." He does three fly, I believe it is basically a standard coin trick. He says, "I'm going to perform it for you, but you're going to understand everything." And it's so cool because he speaks out the whole entire trick in another language, but you feel like you understand what he's saying. It's just bizarre.
That's so cool. That's so yeah. That
So
and
amazing.
we were talking about that because I speak Spanish.
You're fluent in Spanish, yeah.
That's what my degree is in, and
Yeah,
so
and so
I
you've
used
been
to be a
working on a
translator.
trick in Spanish to communicate
Yeah,
across. I'm excited to see it.
yeah, yeah. People have been telling me for a long time, "You should do something in Spanish in your show," and so it's like I'm trying to figure that out. But that's a really cool idea that he had to still communicate, like past the language barrier, even though you don't get the words.
Yeah,
It's what we're talking about. No matter if they can't hear you or whatever, you're able to visually communicate the magic, right?
yeah, 80%, depending on the study, 80+% of your communication is nonverbal. And so nonverbal can also include tone and inflection. So if I say "hey" or "hey," depending how you can get a lot more out of the context. So if your language is spoken and amplified, then it communicates more. I remember when I lived in Mexico. Before I learned much Spanish, and I'm not near as fluent as you are, Caleb, but I got to a good spot speaking Spanish just by listening and comprehending. But the people of Mexico are so kind and amazing. If I didn't understand something, they would actually get louder in the Spanish, right? They'd actually get more amplified and communicate more. And all of a sudden now I understand what's going on by their nonverbal. They didn't back off. They didn't necessarily, if they didn't know any English, they didn't try to speak English. They came on even stronger to communicate. No, come here, come here. They grab you and say, no, check this out right here, and put you in it and make you experience it. And I think that's like the key to it. It's like amplifying that nonverbal to that next level and getting over your limitations. And I think that's part of what Simon has cracked on the code. I don't know if he explained all that or not, but that idea of he doubled down on the Chinese so that we would understand it better.
And what's really cool too is just one more point on this is that it's been fascinating to me. Before we talked about this, I heard this from a mentalist. Actually, he was talking about what happens when I get hired and I'm in a club environment, and I don't know ahead of time that when I arrive, there's going to be so much noise and then a DJ and everybody's like talking and everything, and nobody can hear me. And even like you said, Jeff, even though they're like a couple feet from me, they can't hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So he has a separate set of like 3 routines. I mean,
Nice.
he's a mentalist, right? So he's
Yeah.
gotta have people think of stuff where he's developed it so that people can still think of things and he can read their mind without him ever speaking,
Yeah.
and
That's
he's
being
figured out
prepared.
ways.
Because yeah,
Mhm.
this time of year, you find yourself in those gigs unexpectedly. I mean, you just never know. I could not have predicted the bugs would be that loud. You can't always
Oh, yeah.
predict even what the contract says. You can't predict whether they've got the music turned up too loud or whether the lights are too low. There's other
Right.
topics we could talk about.
Sure.
Along this line. So
We had one more really
one
quick
more
thing before we wrap it up, which was skin and
skin.
how the heat and elements affect your skin.
We had not talked about this in quite a while on the live stream, if ever. I think we have actually, but when it starts getting hot, your skin can do different things that you don't normally expect. One, if you stay dehydrated, if you don't drink enough water, your skin can get dry, or two, what's more likely going to happen than anything, even if you're dehydrated, the humidity, your skin gets a little too moist. And then all of a sudden, coins start acting, particularly with their coin magic, they start acting and behaving differently. And so,
Mm.
the air conditioning, if you're in air conditioning, it can dry out your skin. If you go outside, it can be too humid, and your skin doesn't know where it's at all given times. So, it can mess with your magic. And be aware when you wake up, before you go to bed, what is your skin doing when I go out, when I perform magic? Where's my skin at? Because it's hard to predict sometimes with with summer weather.
And you want to think about these things because one of the things we may have mentioned before is kind of like your image and what you're trying to portray. It's not very good look to walk up to a group and say, "Hey, I'm the magician, and I'm trying to get you," and you're wiping the sweat
I
off your
think,
hands. It's like, what is going on with this guy, right?
yeah.
Like, it's a
Or
little
if you
strange.
cosmic palm a coin and it never comes out
And
because
there,
it's stuck there up the
you're doing,
sleeve, like you said.
you're, you're doing like coins across of somebody's hand, and like nothing ever falls in their hand, and you're just holding their hand awkwardly. Oh yeah, no, you got to think about these things, right? So
Why is
we
his hand
actually
a
have a
spider?
solution we wanted to mention for
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
specifically.
We got a solution with that. So first off, I'll say drink plenty of water. That's the number one thing. I know, and Ricky's been on here with us in the past. We've always talked about drink your water, drink your water. But that's part of why I developed this guy right here, which is the Via Hero, and this specifically is a beeswax. We see on the outside the beeswax Via Hero wallet. And what
Mhm.
we do is we hand stain these with 100% pure Texas beeswax from an amazing farm up in Texas, north of here, northeast of here. And by opening the wallet, you get a little bit of beeswax on your skin. And so I don't know if I can demonstrate that for you, but I have a playing card here. And that is just from the beeswax. It is stuck on my skin, just like
Mm.
that. And that's very subtle. And the beeswax doesn't really, it feels natural. It feels natural. But what this will do is this will cut through the humidity. It will amplify dry skin, whether it's hot, cold, wet, whatever, wet, dry. It doesn't matter. The beeswax cuts right through it, and it's natural. Beeswax has been used for years as antiviral, antimicrobial. It's good stuff for you. Some people actually eat it. It's like whatever. I mean, there's probably some of it in your honey, so you can do your own research on that. I'm not the FDA, but I can tell you basic research will tell you some of these things. So what it does is when you have a coin here, and I got it. I got just enough here. Yeah, I can get that's a Copeland coin shell. So it's I'm trying to see. You can see that it makes things a little tackier here. So, but it just amplifies it just enough. So I'm trying to get it to see if it'll stay just a little bit. But it's not super glue. It's not Octopalm. It's not any of that gunky stuff. And it stays on your hands or it stays in the wallet. It doesn't gum up your cards or your coins and stuff like that. It's just subtle. It's the right amount.
So it's such a good little idea, and it's like you said, subtle because people never see it. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's part of that
And that
element.
is
So
when you take out the wallet, that's when you load your hands. And the work is already
yeah,
done. It's already on my fingertips right now.
because the wax is not in the wallet, it's not going to mess your coins up. It's on just the folds of the.
So on the
Sure.
folds of the wallet, so that when the wallet closes, like 80% of the wax is protected inside your pocket.
So good.
So I put on the back as well. But, we also have
That's wonderful.
beeswaxing kits on the website. You can wax your own wallets if you like. We have some. It comes with a video as well, or for it's like $10, we do it for you and send you extra. It's probably a lifetime's worth of wax. I've never had to re-wax one of these. If somebody has, leave a comment. But I give complete video instructions on how to do it from my home test kitchen.
Don't be telling people about your home test kitchen, Jeff. Okay. No, I'm
Anyways,
just playing. I'm just
that's
playing.
summer performance, people. That's how you
That's
can
summer
get it
performance.
done.
So here's the link for the Via Hero. Go check out the Via Hero. That is a perfect, option for you for that. Keep in mind all these different things we talked about today, and let us know if you have any questions about any of them. Hopefully these are good, helpful tips for you this summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll leave it here now. Go make
Make
beautiful.